RITSEC. Welcome to RITSEC, guys. Please sign in. That's actually, I probably need to drop the sign. I was busy doing other things. So you guys have like 30 seconds to get your phone out, just like I have to do. Go to Discord, go to the sign in, and then drop the sign in. Because I have to drop it. Where's the sign in tab? Oh, thanks, Jace. Okay, now you can sign in. Join the Discord. In order to sign in, you have to be in the Discord. So if you're not signed in and you're not in the Discord, please do so. QR code, if you need to scan it. Check the calendar. We have really fun events that are upcoming, and I'm going to announce some of them today. But so you know the date and you don't always have to refer to the slides, you can join the calendar. It's very great, and it shows where all of our interest groups are and everything. Mailing list. If you're wondering who is presenting this week and what the presentations are, join the mailing list, because with our weekly newsletter, you will find out who are the presenters and what they're presenting on. Also, we have the RITSEC feedback form. If you have any feedback you want to give us about how we run our meetings, constructive, maybe mean. I don't like mean comments, but if it's helpful, then I'll accept them. Send it to here. Hopefully it works. Announcements. You came up so early. IRSEC. For those of Jack, you want to make the announcement?
So RITSEC is our incident response security competition. It's a red team competition. It'll be Saturday, November 4th this year. More information will be divulged about it as the semester goes on. But yeah, we'll have blue team signups eventually. And right now we have black team signups. The deadline is Wednesday, September 20th at 11:59 p.m. Question. Black team is basically everyone who helps set up the competition. So making the images for Windows, Linux, setting up the infrastructure, setting up the network, theming, stuff like that.
How much experience is required to be part of it?
A little bit, but anyone's welcome to sign up. Zero?
For blue teaming, zero. Black teaming, you need a little bit of experience.
Yeah, blue team. There will be blue team signups soon. So stay tuned for those. But yeah. Yes. Yes, we will. Yes, there will be blue team workshops, and we will also have announcements about that relatively soon.
So join the calendar and the weekly newsletter so you guys can hear about those updates. RITSEC's Career Fair Eve. Do you want to talk about it, Sophie? No, I got it then. Awesome. RITSEC hosts their own Career Fair Eve with a couple of our sponsors. This happens during the week of the career fair. It's great for opportunities like networking, and it's very, very first-year friendly. You can come in, everybody's willing to talk, and they're looking to hire you guys, which is great. We have the virtual portion on September 25th from 6 to 8 p.m. This one is like through Zoom. You still want to dress up, wear like a nice shirt or something, and then you'll be admitted into Zoom calls with people who are looking to hire you. Same with the in-person. You'll come in here. It's typically in this conference room. It should be here again this year. And you'll meet with a bunch of our sponsors who are, again, looking to hire specifically security students. So that means they send, instead of just HR people, they also send people who have experience. And you can actually learn a lot through being at the career fair. Social events. WESIS is hosting one next weekend on the 22nd, which is apple picking. I believe it's about $11 per person. We have a rideshare form. You can go and check out our slides on our website to go fill that out, or you can fill out this form right here by scanning it. And yeah, it's a big apple picking event. You're more than welcome to come. Similar to this event, RITSEC is hosting our Letchworth trip. If you guys don't know what Letchworth is, it's essentially the Grand Canyon of the Northeast. Very impressive, I know. I haven't been there. This is happening on September 30th, so 3 Saturdays from now. And it'll be really great. It's really pretty now that the season's starting to change. And we'll also have like a rideshare form. If you want to sign either one of these QR codes, it should open up the form for you to fill that out. Conference announcement. One of our members, if you look in the general chat, Amira's right there. She's so cool. We're hosting, RIT is hosting the first IEEE workshop in upstate New York at RIT on October 10th. You guys are more than welcome to come. This is hyperlinked. I couldn't get a QR code to work for it. Sorry. You can also Google it and it'll show up on the RIT website. Yeah, Amira's going to have a poster there, so at least show up and support her. It's free to go as well, so just show up and it'll be a fun time. Junior Ops Lead and Junior Tech Lead. What?
Which one's what?
They're underneath it. Junior Tech Lead is under Junior Tech Lead.
Not very
Junior Ops Lead is under Junior Ops Lead is the orange one. There you go. Yeah? The Letchworth form. Zach will fix it. It'll be fine. Junior Ops Lead. I'm not the Ops Lead. I can't really talk about what they do. Kenny will talk about it, and Alex Noble will come up and talk about Tech Lead. Okay, the Letchworth form should be accepting responses now.
So Junior Ops Lead is pretty much the little buddy to the Ops Lead. You guys will be responsible for helping the Ops Lead maintain OpenStack, all the cloud infrastructure. If you guys aren't familiar, they deploy most of the infrastructure for the comps. And what else do they do? They need to support daily operations for our club.
All of our websites.
Yeah, we host websites, host all the content that has cloud infrastructure, manage the tickets, the infamous tickets that you guys consistently submit. Zach. But yeah, please apply. It's a fun time. Who was our Junior was a former Junior Ops Lead, but there's a few Ops members that probably find better than I did, but yeah. I mean, you get a little experience, but no experience is welcome. They're really just looking for someone. I don't know how to put it. Like, experience is welcome, but I mean, just keep in mind that you will be in a technical position. So I would say prepare yourself for a technical position. However, if you do not have the experience for the technical position, it's okay because you will learn it. That's the whole point of being a junior ops lead. But be ready to learn and be willing to learn and be available to learn. Be a soft sponge. The end.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Just like the junior ops lead position, tech lead position also is very similar. You don't need any experience. I will take any sort of application. I'll look at it. What I care about more is for someone who's genuinely interested in the position, in the role. My role strictly falls around creating the demos every week for these meetings, whether it's the varying of topics, talking to the presenters, making sure that there's something that you all have to do, and you can get your points, you can get your reward. But yeah, you'll learn a bunch of stuff along the way. I'll give you some things to do. There's some event stuff that you'll probably have to do for City and Imaginary too, but not much. But yeah, it's a pretty nice role. You'll learn a lot, and it'll bring you up to take over the next one. Cool.
Are there any questions? I'm sorry.
Oh, questions? Anyone for either position? Yeah. Sorry, can you say that again?
So due to the nature of the junior ops lead position, you become the next ops lead.
Same with Tech Lead.
And same with tech lead. If you're graduating this year, i.e. the second year and a student, you're not really eligible because next year you won't be. So
Yeah. I haven't had this one on now. Both these roles are like direct pipelines to eBoard. So know that when applying, you also have an opportunity to be part of eBoard, which is what all of us do, running in the days, which is so fun. Any other questions? Yes, Anthony? I can click back. If you guys want to fill out the Letchworth QR, it should work now. So if you want to scan it, Mr. President decided. Philip, does it work? Ariana says it works, and that's good enough for me. Alrighty. Now Chase gets to talk.
Finally, I've been waiting here so long. All right, so few of you may heard of the mentorship program we got going on right now. If you scroll up in announcements a little bit, you'll see it's an application to join our mentorship program. If you want to be a mentee, learn more about security, keep up with the club more, talk to upperclassmen, hang out, become the biggest brain person you can be. Scan the QR code, fill out the form, and you get to choose between a bunch of different mentorship groups. One was fuzzing, understanding, and constructing kernels. There's like OP development, which is a little bot we have, and there's like core driving and so much more. So many opportunities to go look at. So apply.
When does the form close?
It is going to close. It's going to close tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. And then I'm going to review all of them, and you should know what group you're in by next week. All right, thank you.
Amazing. That's all of the announcements, guys. That's so exciting. They won't typically be that many. We just have a lot because it's the beginning of the semester. While this amazing sound is going on, clap it up for the sponsors. Woo! Round of applause. More sponsors. So amazing. Even more sponsors. Keep clapping. Woo! Okay. And then finally, just follow us on social media. Our social media head for our PR is doing a great job posting. We'll have social media head. Ask us about that later. Our PR is doing a great job. So yeah, just follow us. It's amazing. And now, without further ado, probably the reason most of you are here, it's definitely why Caleb's here. A presentation done by Caleb Munn.
Hello, everyone. All right, make sure this is correct here. All right, cool. Hello, I'm Caleb, as the slide tells you. You're probably wondering who I am. You've probably never seen me. Maybe you have. I'm Caleb. I am from Corey, Pennsylvania. You've definitely never heard of it. I am a third-year CSEC student. I tolerate Windows very, very much. And I like birds as well. I'm the treasurer for the birding club. I know that sounds very cool. I control all the bird money. I'm also a part of the Windows Red team, so you may see me poking around your boxes during certain competitions. If you see me, say hi. And also, I am now on Discord with Ribbon. And also, the reason you've never seen me before is I am a Cyberstock co-op SRA this semester. So that's probably why I'm not around too often. But next semester, trust me, I'll be back. And then here's some photos of me. So, the goals of this presentation. First, you're going to want to know how to navigate Windows and the file system of Windows. Very important step to knowing how to do anything on any operating system. You want to understand what processes and services are. You want to be able to create and modify users and groups. You want to be able to feel comfortable using Windows, both command line, PowerShell, and the GUI. You want to know how to configure Windows using the control panel and the registry. And most importantly, know where to learn more if you're interested. So first off, what is a Windows? Windows is the world's most popular operating system, for better or for worse. You don't have to like Windows, but you just know how to use it, solely because it's the most popular operating system. If you're a blue teamer, you want to know how to defend and configure Windows, because you're probably going to be using it at some point. If you're a red teamer, once again, many targets out there for you to have to do your red teaming on, so you want to know how to use it. It comes in many different versions. The most recent version is Windows 11. Most common version right now is Windows 10. We've got less common version, Windows 7, and there's also some other ones like Windows XP and Windows 8, and Windows 9 we do not speak of. No, I did not say anything. You did not hear anything. Don't talk about Windows 9. So, quick note on doing command lines. So generally, most things you can do in Windows with either a graphical user interface or a command line interface. You don't have to know both of them at the start if you're just getting into Windows or just learn about what a command line was last week. That's fine. You can GUIs can include things like the control panel or task manager, or all those other fancy menus that Windows has. And command line interfaces can include command interpreter, or command prompt, and PowerShell. And we'll get into those a little bit more later, but I just want to touch on them real quick. And my advice is get comfortable with both of them, because you'll probably have to use both of them. Sometimes you will use both, sometimes you prefer using one more than the other, but either way, you have to use them, so time to learn. The first offering is the file system. So Windows uses the New Technology File System, or NTFS, to store, access, and organize and all their files. There's a lot of files on your system, so it's important to know how they're organized and how they work. So you have methods to prevent data corruption, compressing and encrypting files, all that good stuff in NTFS. But honestly, you're not going to need to know much about that. Just know it exists, that's what it uses. So Windows generally follows this drive, folder, file structure. I've helpfully color-coded it here. So we have, for example, the C drive, user folder, the Caleb folder, my favorite folder, the downloads folder, and then finally we have our beautiful file, Barbie movie 1080p legit no virus .exe. Windows uses backslashes, not forward slashes like you see in Linux. Don't ask me why. I know why, but it's stupid. I don't like it. But just know that exists. And sometimes it's tolerating you using forward slashes, like in PowerShell. I think it's pretty good with that, but just try to use backslashes. It saves you many headaches. Access to files and folders are controlled by an access control list, and we also get to those a little bit later. And you can navigate the file system using File Explorer or the command line, using commands such as CD, which you've probably seen in Linux. And we'll also get more into the different commands when we get to command line PowerShell, which actually might be the next topic. ACLs and permissions, these are what control access to different files and folders and such. They can be applied to either users or groups. And to apply them, you can go to right-click and properties and security. You can see this nice little panel here where you can click advanced and edit stuff and all the other fancy stuff. Command line use the iCackles. I don't know what the IC stands for, honestly, but the ACL stands for Access Control List. You can use that, and you can target a file. You can grant, for example, Caleb read and write execute access. And there's a whole list of those somewhere on Microsoft's website, but I didn't want to include all of them. But some basic ones are here, at least. We have reading files, which allows you to view files and folders. You can write to them by adding them or writing to a file. Read and execute allows you to both read the files and execute them if they're executable, such as a executable file or exe file. Modifying files, you can read, write, and delete the files and folders, so it's basically a combination of all of those. List folder contents, you can see files and folders, but you might not be able to view file contents. It just allows you to see the file exists, essentially. And then we also got full control, which gives you all permissions, and you can also change the owner of the file and permissions of the file. So here's some useful things you might want to look out for on Windows. You've got the program files, which contain 64-bit programs. The program files, parentheses, x86, contains 32-bit programs. Users file contains folders for each user where you have your downloads and desktop and all that other fun stuff. System32 contains the essential system files and all of the most of the DLL files. I should not say all of them. We have the temporary folder here that stores temporary files, kind of like temp file in Linux. Recycle bin restores all of the deleted files that you deleted but aren't actually deleted yet. You can permanently delete them from this folder, but that's where they go in the meantime. Then you also got this startup folder, which is very cool because it contains programs we launched at startup for all users, which, yes, can be abused. And hello, Jack.
What if I find Barbie.exe in there?
If you find Barbie.exe in there, right-clicking on it, clicking Run as Admin, and definitely do not delete that. That's good stuff. So now we have users and groups. I lied. Okay, this was not command prompt in the PowerShell. I think that's the next one for sure. I'm not lying this time. All right, so users and groups. So you got users, which are the individual accounts on Windows machine. They can be assigned one or more groups, which are groups of users, as the name kind of implies. So users inherit group permissions they're in. So if they're in the administrators group, then all the users in that group will inherit administrator permissions and all that stuff that it entails. So each user and group has a unique security identifier, which uniquely identifies it, so that even if two users have the same username or a group has the same name as a user, it doesn't get them confused because they're all identified by their SID.
And you can see some SIDs here. They're almost like fancy little format. They're not very readable, but just know they're there and will help you determine what users want. Windows has some default user groups when it comes out of the box. So we've got the guest users. They belong to the guest group. They can log in without password, but they have limited permissions. If you're, for example, in a competition where you want to stop people from getting into your boxes, you may want to disable these users so they can't just log in without password. Administrator belongs to administrator group, and they have high-level privileges. Kind of the opposite of the guest. They, unlike a normal user, they have higher-level privileges, and yeah, they're very powerful. So don't just assign them willy-nilly. They also service accounts, and Active Directory adds even more. Cut off. Okay. Active Directory adds even more users and groups for you to play around with. So we're not really going to touch on Active Directory much on this presentation, if at all. That should be in a future one when we get to advanced Windows. But here's some commands and guides on how to create, delete, and modify users and groups. I don't want to go through each and every one of these because that's a lot of stuff, but they're here for your reference if you want to go back to the presentation and look at them. I tried to add these little commands in here to give you some guide on if you're trying to do some demos or need to look up something. They're here for you to peruse. But for the GUI, you can kind of do all this stuff in the local users and groups menu, which is the lusermanager.msc executable. And in the command line, it's already done with the net user command or the net local group for groups. And here's some helpful commands here, especially the bottom one here. When RITSEC, you add the red team user administrators. Very good. Now, okay, I wasn't lying. All right, I told you that was coming. PowerShell and command prompt. So, quick difference about these two things. You might see them used for similar purposes. So, what are they? Command prompt, which is command.exe, is the older legacy command line interface. It has limited functionality, limited power. It can run batch scripts. It's straightforward and easy to learn, so it's suitable for beginners and for quick tasks. But if you want to do more advanced stuff like automation or scripting, you want to use PowerShell. It has more commands, more power. It's object-oriented and built with .NET Framework. It can run command.exe commands and also kind of translates Linux commands into those. So, for example, you don't know what a Windows version of the command is, you can just type it in PowerShell, and usually it will figure out what you're trying to do and translate it for you. For basic commands, I'd say, not like anything too fancy. PowerShell has its own version of commands. Usually they're more powerful and they do bigger things, which we'll touch on in the future in some of the slides. But just to know the difference between those two and what you might use them for. Here are some commands for command.exe. And you can also go to the website ss64.com/nt. And they have a full list of commands, all the stuff to do, all the options for them. There's a whole lot of them, so I wasn't going to include them all here. But this is some of the more common ones you'll use, what their purpose is, and how you use it. PowerShell generally follows a verb, noun, option, and argument sort of syntax. The get help command displays information about all the commands. And for a full list of commands, see once again ss64.com/nt. It contains PowerShell commands as well, and that's a great place to look if you want to learn more. Microsoft documentation can be found by searching a command on Google or something. That's usually what I do when I'm trying to figure out information about one, because it's generally the place you want to end up anyway. So, quick note, Microsoft documentation, it can be very annoying to use sometimes. Sometimes they don't always include all the documentation you might want, or it might not be in full detail. Still work with it. It's part of Windows, I guess. And there's a hyperlink here to PowerShell 101. So Microsoft site, great place to start learning PowerShell. But PowerShell is generally a bit more advanced than command, so I didn't want to go too in-depth into it, but I've touched on it throughout all the slides here. But if you want to learn more about it and know how to use it, then go to that link and it will explain everything. So now I'll get to processes and services. So a process is essentially just a running program. You see many processes here. We have Notepad, Windows Explorer, Microsoft Outlook, Internet Explorer. That doesn't exist anymore. So each process is isolated from the rest, and they have their own memory usage. At least they try to be, but in reality, it's not quite that simple. They can communicate to each other using inter-process communication, or IPC methods. You have things like pipes, sockets, and shared memory, yes. processes are usually identified by their PID, similar to how users are identified by an SID. So it doesn't show it here in Task Manager, I don't think, but if you use another third-party software like Program Process Explorer, or you go to the command line and do it, you see PIDs that would identify each process, and that's usually how you target them if you're trying to do a command. They're created from exe files, and they may be run by the operating system or by a user. So some of these kind of just show up by the operating system and are automatically created. Some of them you run yourself. For controlling processes, you have the GUI method of going to Task Manager or a third-party application like System Internal Process Explorer, which I highly recommend. Much better than Task Manager in my opinion. And then you also have the command line interface, which honestly I don't really like using for like this kind of stuff. I find like the GUI more intuitive for me. But if you liked it, then you have the option here. The command IDC commands are orange, the PowerShell commands are in blue. So you have them kind of both doing the same thing, but different versions of doing them. And mainly just be using these commands here like task kill, start, run as, and PowerShell kind of condenses that into a few more like get process, stop process, and so on. I think PowerShell is more intuitive in this case because it kind of explains what it's doing. But yeah. Now services are kind of a special type of process that runs in the background. That's the way I like to think of them. They're kind of used for special things like doing operating system functions and providing central system functionality. You have things here like BitLocker, which controls all the BitLocker stuff. You have, I think I'll read half of these, but you have things like Windows Updater, Print Spooler, and Task Scheduler. They all provide very good services that you need to run your Windows operating system. You can update it. You can use a Print Spooler to send print jobs. You have Task Scheduler to handle all those tasks you've created or Reckon created in some cases. So those all run in the background. You don't really have to look at them. They just kind of are there and they're running. But they can also run when no user is logged in, so you can still have tasks that are scheduled even when no user is logged in to see them. Most often they run as kind of a special user. You see different ones here, like network services or local services or so on. Those are usually just run by services. You can log into them, but I wouldn't recommend screwing around with them too much to know what you're doing. And they also have different startup types here. You can see we have manual, automatic, and disabled. There's also a few other like slightly different types, but those are the main ones you want to know about. Automatic, it automatically runs on startup, and the service will just run itself. Manual, you have to control when you start and stop it, and disabled means it doesn't start at all. So controlling services, once again, we have the same kind of format that you see with processes, but for services. So for all services in the command line, using the SC command, you have various options. You have SC, query X, start, stop, config, so on. PowerShell, you have to get services and stop services, restart services. Once again, it's pretty straightforward. The GUI is using Service Manager. That's services.msc, MSC, if you're curious. And a quick note on user access control. You've probably seen it pop up before when you use Windows, asking you to make changes to your device or provide access or whatever. That user access control works. It's a method Windows uses to temporarily elevate privileges so that, for example, a user isn't constantly running as admin and can do things that will hurt the operating system or act maliciously. It basically requires you to give consent for something that has required privilege. So that way it kind of helps keep things safe and make sure people aren't doing unauthorized things. Configuration. So for configuring Windows, you generally want to use the control panel. This is a place where you access configuration tools and menus. There are commands for all this stuff, I'm sure, but I don't memorize it. I don't think I want to memorize it. It's a lot of stuff, and you're not going to use it that often. So if you want to know how to like change the brightness, for example, using a command, you probably can do it, but generally it's not worth memorizing. So you have the service control panel. You have Service Manager, Event Viewer, Device Manager. All can be accessed from this menu. You also can use the Microsoft Management Console to create a custom view of commonly used tools. So if you want to have a custom view for Event Manager and all Device Manager and all these other cool little programs and menus you can access stuff from. That's a way to do it. Now we have the registry. It's a very important part of Windows. So the registry is essentially a big, giant database storing configuration settings. You have a lot of different things that make up the registry. It's sort of like a big repository of global variables if you want to think of it from a programming perspective. So before we had the registry, we had a bunch of separate INI files for settings for each program and tool that needed to run. It was a big mess and difficult to find things. That's why we created the registry. So now we have everything in one centralized location with all of the good and bad that comes with that. So separating to a hierarchical tree-like structure, we have hives at the top level, or group keys. And below that, you have regular keys. Below those, you have sub-keys. And in each key, you have values, which contain a name, a type, and a value. So, if you're wondering what this is personally, I tried to use an AI generator to type in personified like Windows hives, and this is what it gave me. So there's vibes for you if you're interested. Anyway, hives are where the registry is physically stored. They're basically like a little file that's stored in the Windows, and you can like copy them and delete them. They're a normal file, but they correspond to a top level key in the registry. So they're commonly abbreviated, so you'll see things like HKLMs and HP local machine. Generally much easier to say and type than having to type out the whole thing, but it's good to know what they mean. So some of the important hives you'll see, HP process root defines applications to handle various file types. So that's how Windows knows what to do when it sees a executable file and run it. It's how it knows what to do when you see a text file and try to open it. HKey current user stores configuration settings for the currently logged in user. So it's specific for each user. That's how you have things like you might log onto a system you own and have your settings on there, whereas your brother sister might have an account on there too. They log on, they have different settings. It's all controlled through these registry keys. You have HKLM, or HP local machine. This one holds system-wide settings and configuration information for all users. So this is how you might have things that control whether or not you or your sibling log into the system. Everyone's account is affected by these. HKey users contain profiles for all user accounts on the computer. So once again, this is one of the things that controls how users, what settings they get, all the stuff they use. That's all stored there in the HKU. The HP current config, or HKCC, stores information about the current hardware configuration. So generally, this one just kind of stores something about your hardware. So they're all pretty self-explanatory when we look into them, but it's good to know what they are and what they do. That's another one of these stupid AI things. Versus, I don't know what that means. Yeah, it's a interesting looking key as well. Try to lock like that one, I dare you. Alright, so keys act as holders for other keys, and also hold values. So a key under another key is called a subkey. There's no actual difference between what they are, it's just a terminology thing. A key can have 0 or more values. Values have a name, a data type, a data value, as you saw before in the slide. Values store the actual data that you want from the registry. Then programs and users can also query the registry to retrieve the information stored in the values in the keys. Keys are in paths like files. So for example, we have HKLM, software, Microsoft, Windows, current version, and run, which controls programs that are run at startup. It keeps cutting off to the bottom part of my text. Very annoying. But anyway, this is a very good spot for red team stuff. You like to hide stuff in there, so take notes. But once again, it's run stuff on startup. So if we have malware we want to store in there, it's going to run every time we start the system. So take note. Here's a very weird looking Roots Cube version of the registry. You can control the registry using the GUI, which is the registry editor, or the command line, which is all the reg commands essentially. PowerShell doesn't really have, it does have its own commands, but they're way more complicated than using the reg command. I just use this whether I'm in PowerShell or command line. It generally gets the job done just fine, and it's not quicker in my opinion. So I like to use those. But if you're interested, they are out there. They also accept abbreviations. So for example, instead of trying to type HK local machine, you just type HKLM and use the backslashes and it'll get you what you want to. So now we have some bonus sort of stuff that didn't really fit anywhere else in the presentation, but it's good to know. Here we have some handy Windows shortcuts. I recommend getting familiar with these because they're very helpful in making you a pro Windows user. We have things like the lock screen. So if you walk away from your computer and don't want Red Team to come up and start doing black magic on it, I recommend you lock it. You have the run prompt for quickly running things. You've got the quick link menu, settings menu, clipboard history. Snipping tool is great. If you want to stop taking pictures with your phone, you can use snipping tool, and that will allow you to select a little area on the system to copy and paste. Task manager is good to know as well, in case you have the dreaded scenario where task manager starts freezing. You can just press that, and hopefully it will somehow fix itself. You also have the control shift and click taskbar button to quickly open a task app as administrator. Good to know if you're frequently doing that. We have the access methods, which I click on. So Windows has a few different access methods aside from the normal ones like SSH. You have remote desktop protocol, which is kind of a graphical interface for remote connection. You can connect to it using the remote desktop connection application, and that allows you to get a full desktop view of the system you're accessing. And that way you can see everything going on. You aren't limited to just a command line. WinRM is kind of the counterpart of that. You can access PowerShell sessions using WinRM, but you're not going to get like a graphical interface like you would with RDP. You can access it using the connect WSMan commandlet. And finally, we have server message block, which just allows sharing files, prayers, and other resources on a network. System terminals, I have to plug it because it's very awesome, and you should definitely use it if you're doing stuff with Windows. This gets to repeat ad nauseum, unfortunately, but you have very many tools in system terminals. It's owned by Microsoft at this point now, I believe, and you can do many cool things with it. It gives you much more functionality and better views than you would with the default Windows processes. So things like Process Explorer, which lets it's just Task Manager with cool sunglasses, essentially. It lets you do all stuff Task Manager lets you do. It also lets you see like individual DLLs being loaded by a process. It lets you see a bunch of other cool stuff. I recommend using that. Process Monitor lets you do a very in-depth view in the process activity. You can see each individual register key it's accessing and changing and all the other fun stuff. It also lets you see just how much stuff's going on in the system at any one time. You'll start seeing like your you have like a log of everything that's going on in the system. If you don't filter it, it gets up like tens of thousands of things. It's just insane. Sysmon is a cool logging tool. Part of the configuration and know-how, but to get it set up and running, it lets you know a lot more about what's happening in your system and have some logs to show it. Auto runs is another great tool. Helpful during competitions, for example, when you want to see, okay, what's all running on startup? What can I see that I can disable or get rid of? What's this funny box popping up when I log on? For example, all that stuff can kind of auto runs. Very cool. The PSExec, it runs commands remotely on another computer, and yes, it can be used just like you think it might be able to. Check it out there behind the cutoff bar. There's hyperlink there, and you can check out all system terminal stuff. I believe it also downloads like the Microsoft Store and everything, but yeah, there's a lot of places to find it. Yeah, it is really nice. I like PSExec. You can do a lot of fun stuff with it, whether you're using it for. Oh yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff you can do with it, a lot of ways to abuse it. Fun stuff. So now we have any questions.
Is that the wizard that installs my software?
That is the wizard that installs your software. That is the software wizard. All right, any questions? So the question was, since Windows 11 is kind of around, how long do you think Windows 10 is going to be around? Forever. I mean, people still use Windows XP and like all those other ancient ones. I think we've probably gotten better with like knowing how to future-proof things. So you probably will see more people porting over to Windows 11 as Windows 10 gets older and becomes less supported. But you'll have things on there that never ever get updated for the new operating systems that will just always be around. Some people prefer using ones, but certainly you're going to see like future years more Windows 11 will be popping up because Windows 10 is going to be less supported. less updates. So just natural kind of life cycle of these different operating systems.
What was so bad about Windows 9?
What was so bad about Windows 9 is it doesn't really exist. Yeah, it's really good. It's so good that it's like it's kept on lockdown, so no one uses it. Yeah, I don't know. Microsoft just has a fear of number 9, I guess, and they wanted to. Yeah, it went from like Windows 8, which is I don't know. I don't like talking about Windows 8 because that one was kind of garbage. But it went from like Windows 7 and 8 to 10. Why? Don't know. I'm not familiar with like Microsoft's history that much, but might be a fun investigation if you want to figure out what happened to Windows 9.
So what do you find being the hardest thing to do in Windows? What have you tried?
Like more specific, like what just in general, like what's the hardest thing to do on Windows, or like you're talking about like the command line GUI or
I guess like do you first question, do you prefer Windows to Linux?
prefer is a strong word. I like using Windows because there's a lot of stuff you can do with it. I use Windows personally just because like I find it easier to use. Like I'm not really in-depth Linux user. I wouldn't say I'm a fan of like all the stuff Microsoft does with Windows, but I use it.
In your use, is there one thing that you kind of get tired of seeing all the time, or is there
Yeah, I mean you'll see a lot of stuff Microsoft likes to do with Windows. I mean, for example, Windows 11, I don't like the way it's designed. Microsoft makes a lot of very questionable design decisions, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. People might like it. I find it a little. I don't like how it looks, and also a lot of the constant things they're pushing with like, oh, in order to log into your system, you have to have an internet connection and create a Microsoft account, and having to go my way to like disable the internet connection, so I don't have to do that. It's really, it gets tired after a while. But yeah.
From a like red team perspective, is there anything that like you run into on Windows and you're like, this is terrible? I think it's like compared to Linux, where it's just like 50 people.
Oh yes, many things. The question was, from a red team perspective, are there things on Windows that you kind of run into and hate that like you want to see on Linux? Oh yes, so many things. If you're really clever from last year, you might have heard me talking about a time where I had to go on like a forum post from like 2003 to find this like one function that was not defined anywhere else and try to get the structure of it. That's a thing that happens because I'm gonna be honest, I don't think Microsoft even knows what's going on Windows half the time. There's a lot of like very old things on there that you're using for red team that just is not documented anywhere. And you have to like kind of the only reason we know about them is like reverse engineering and stuff. It's just a pain to work with. But it's also I will say it's kind of satisfying in a way when you do figure it out and get it to work. It's very fun. But you won't really see that on Linux because you see like how everything works and you can see all the commands and all their syntax, and it's very nice. You don't see that in Windows as much. Any other questions? Oh, hello.
Why does Print Spooler run as administrator?
What's that?
Why does Print Spooler run as administrator?
Print Spooler is an interesting thing. It's one of those things that requires administrator access because it's one of those background services that's required to actually print stuff. I don't know why it needs admin privileges specifically. I don't know. Did it have admin in the slides? I don't know if Print Spooler was on here in the slides.
There was someone saying it's important.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's an important thing. You need to use it for printing stuff, and it needs access in order to do that printing stuff. I don't know the details of how Print Spooler works, honestly. I've not delved into it too deeply. But generally, most services are going to need elevated access to do things that they... Huh? Yeah. Yeah, as Kenny mentioned, it requires a lot of network access. It's unsupervised, and so it's going to have elevated access in order to do all that stuff. But yeah, if you're more interested in it, you can probably look it up and find more details about what Print Spooler does specifically that requires that access, but I'm not too familiar with the details beyond it, print stuff. Any other questions?
How can this be used offensively?
How can this be used offensively? Oh, it can be used very offensively. There's in fact a whole red team dedicated to it. All right, cool. That's everything. You go, Casey.
Thank you.
Pleasure being here. Glad to see you all next semester, hopefully.
Yay, Chandler.